as discussed in the overall overview, we said that much of the questions were specific detail. The answers to the correct answers to the questions were right there in the passage. So I think we are solving set O right now. And the first passage in this set is that consultant 1. So while I was reading this passage and the first few lines, I thought that maybe it's a business decision-making passage, as was asked in Clat 2024. But yes, it wasn't. And it was one of the easiest passages to solve. So we were given this overall idea of change management and what's the role of a consultant when the company is undergoing some change, right? For, let's say, to improve efficiencies across, for their objectives, end goals, and to how to sort of reorient themselves and identify the lacuna, right? The inherent flaws in the system and how to go about solving them, increasing efficiencies, right? So as I said, much of the passage is pretty easy to read, right? So some important points. This might entail operations such as logistics redesign. So there's some kind of list, and whenever there's a list, expect a question on the list, okay? So logistics redesign, business process reengineering, adopting new applications, systems, or even community relation programs, all of this, right? And then people management is a critical component, and the author spends some time on people management. It says to offer orientation and create resources to explain the changes to the group and make it comfortable with the shift. So if the company is undergoing a transformation, right, then we'll have to involve all key stakeholders. So the consultant's role is not only suggesting the changes to be made, but also being able to communicate those changes to everyone, right? The management, the employees, and everyone who's a stakeholder, okay? So we're doing question number 85. What is the primary responsibility of you being a company's efficient consultant? This is a pretty easy one. Option A, I think, analyzing the organization's structure, processes, and market position. Everything else can easily be ruled out. So question number 85, we're going with A. Okay, I'll write it here also. A on this one. '86. Okay, so with whom does a consultant work closely to understand a company's goals and challenges? So again, this could have been answered without going back to the passage, but there is a specific line wherein it said that it does so by closely interacting with the company's management and different sections to decipher their objectives, all of this, right? So option B is correct on question number 86. All right. 87. Imagine yourself as a consultant, and I'll keep clearing the screen to avoid any confusion. Imagine yourself as a consultant and find what methods you'll use to develop customized solutions. Okay. Intuition and guesswork is clearly out. So there's that little sort of essence of business decision making, but then all the answers are right there in the passage, right? So it's less of course of action, it's more of inference. Intuition and guesswork is out, social media trends is out, random selection is out, option D is correct. 88. Which of the following might a consultant optimize to improve company efficiency? Office decoration is out, and there was a point on logistics. There was this list, right? I was telling you a little while earlier that logistics, right? The list expect a question. If there is a list in the passage, we expect a question on the list. So we have a question on the list. So logistics, supply chain management, employee dress code is out, lunch menus is out. 88 is B. '89. Why is communication the most relevant thing for a consultant? Right? It's said somewhere to offer orientation, as in some training, orientation towards the new things, create resources to explain the changes to the group, and make it comfortable with the shift, right? To ensure all stakeholders understand the proposed changes. That is a pretty obvious one. Organize consumer meets, update the company website, manage the human resources. All can easily be ruled out. Option A is correct. Right. So I think this is the last one on this passage. What additional support might a consultant provide to help the team adapt to the new processes? And this is again option B is a pretty straightforward one. Planning a retreat for the team members. It might just look good in the first glance. But as soon as I come across option B, training and support, it's a far better option than option A. So option B in favor of A, then C says personal counseling, mental health programs, all of that is pretty, we can easily rule them out. Option B is correct. Right. So we are on the second passage. Okay, so this one I think is on homelessness, and this was the passage which had this figure. Was this the one? Yeah, I think it's the one. Oh, I think that one was the American thing, homelessness. I think this one is the lifestyle and mental well-being. Yeah, lifestyle and mental well-being. Right? So it starts by saying India is poised for rapid economic growth, potentially spurred by a young population driving production and demand. That's the good part. In the process, inevitably, lifestyles are being dramatically altered for the worse, and this sets the tone for the passage. Right? So a lot many things are given. In the absence of extensive data, the role of these factors on mental well-being, encompassing our full range of mental capability, was not well understood until now. And as soon as I read this statement, I understand there is going to be some study which will be cited in the passage. And of course, we have that study here. Recent findings based on a large database of over 150,000 individuals in India are beginning to shed light on correlates of mental well-being about adolescents, and then they have detailed it out, right? So there was this problem number one, extensive unhindered use of mobile phones, number one, and then there was a point on consumption of ultra processed foods, right? And there was also, the author also touched upon a certain point, and we have a question on that, which was we'll come to the question, right? As of now, I can't really locate it in the passage, but yes, when we'll do that question, I'll be able to cite it in the passage. But let's answer the 91st one here. Based on the above passage, which of the following should be the most suitable title for that passage? And this is a pretty straightforward one. Lifestyle and mental health. We do have an option in B which says economic growth and mental health. Of course, there's a discussion on economic growth, but that's not the focus of the passage. It's more of background information in the passage, right? The focus is lifestyle and mental health. So we are going with A here. A, I'll also mark it here. option A. Consider the given statement, technology is an improved means to an unimproved end. Okay, so this line was given in the passage, and the options, maybe while I was doing this question, I was not very sure as to how to pick the correct option here. But if we read it in context of the passage, right, and we'll read it from somewhere here, right? So it says these gadgets are handed to adolescents presumably more out of convenience than sound logic. So that's a problem. The American philosopher David Henry remarked over 175 years ago, technology is an improved means to an unimproved end. Now, immediately after that, the author says this is an extreme positioning, one worth mulling. Right? What does this line mean? This is an extreme positioning, one worth mulling, right? So the author is saying there's this problem with extensive use of mobile phones, extensive use of technology, especially in the case of adolescents. Unhindered use of mobile phone, unhindered use of technology, that is a problem, right? And then the author presents this statement, and then the author follows it up by saying, although it is an extreme position, but it is worth considering, right? So it's an extreme position, but something to ponder on. The author would agree, maybe he does not entirely, or he or she does not entirely agree with that positioning, but then it is somewhere in line of what the passage is, or what the author is trying to drive home. तो author बोलना चाहता है कि technology, extensive use of technology is a problem, extensive use of mobile phones is a problem, और उसको लेकर एक extreme position है, which may be extreme, but still it's worth pondering on, right? So it is an exaggerated, or let's say extreme case of what the author is arguing for, that technology is a problem. Technology, extensive, unhindered use of technology is a problem, and this is an exaggerated version of this position, right? So let's look at the options, right? A says, new technologies have to be accepted by primarily focusing on its positive results. Now, have to be accepted. अगर ये statement इतना harmless, innocuous सा idea के लिए दिया होता, तब author इसको ये नहीं बोलता कि ये extreme positioning है, right? अगर extreme positioning है, it has to convey an extreme idea. अगर इतना as I said, इतना harmless, innocuous सा idea है, तो ये extreme positioning से align नहीं कर रहा है. तो इसलिए A is out. Let's look at B. New technologies create a hindrance to the physical health of an individual. Okay, so new technologies create some problem. Option B saying it creates some problem, but it becomes more specific than what's implied by the passage. ये physical health को एकदम specify कर रहा है. But the author again, using this statement is driving home a larger point, not just specific to physical health. So we'll also let go of B. C. Poor mental health is a result of the invention of new technologies. Again, a very specific thing to say. The author's point is much larger. कि technology है ना, it has an inherent problem, right? It has an inherent problem to it. So again, too specific, maybe we just keep it, right? D. New technology should be looked upon with skepticism, considering its negative impact. And this is like that, this is the statement that we need, right? It drives home that larger idea, and it is also, in line with what the author's point is. Ki technology is inherently problematic. Maybe the author is putting it in a more moderate way, ki unhindered use of technology is problematic, and the extreme sort of position on that is technology itself is inherently problematic, right? So option D looks like the best one, right? We're going with D. To interpret the meaning from, कि on the face of it क्या मतलब हो सकता है, अगर ऐसे आंसर करना था, right? कि टेक्नोलॉजी इज एन इम्प्रूव्ड मीन्स टू एन अनइम्प्रूव्ड एंड, तो अगर केवल लिटरल वे में इसको इंटरप्रेट करें कि ठीक है, वी हैव इम्प्रूव द वे वी आर अप्रोचिंग आर एंड गोल, तो ऑब्जेक्टिव है, एक एंड गोल है, तो जैसे उस एंड गोल तक जा रहे हैं वो हमने बहुत एफिशिएंट बना दिया थ्रू द यूज ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी, बट दैट एंड गोल इटसेल्फ मे बी प्रॉब्लमैटिक, अनइम्प्रूव्ड एंड, कि ओके मेरे को गोल 1 तक जाना था, तो गोल 1 तक जाने का जो प्रोसेस है वो मैंने एकदम अच्छा कर दिया, एफिशिएंट कर दिया, लेकिन वो गोल 1 in itself may not be a very noble cause or may not be a that big a goal. Maybe, that, let's say, that valuable, that important to hold on to. तो गोल में ही शायद प्रॉब्लम है, आपने प्रोसेस बहुत अच्छा कर दिया, लेकिन वो शायद गोल जिसको हम चेस कर रहे हैं, that goal itself is rather vague, not something that creates a lot of value, right? तो वो थोड़ा literal way में ऐसे मीनिंग था. And D aligns with that. New technologies should be looked upon with skepticism, right? Considering its negative impact, right? So option D, as I said, it could have been reached by elimination or maybe just taking a calculated guess on the literal meaning of the statement, okay? So 92, we are going with D. Maybe this was one of the good questions, amongst all. Which of the following statements strengthens the author's argument regarding the negative use of smartphones among the youth? Strengthens the argument, right? A says excessive use of smartphones may lead to weakened family relationships. That looks like a support. There has to be unhindered use of smartphones. Opposite. Smartphones have economic usefulness. Opposite. Ownership of smartphones at an early age results due to lack of care by parents. How the problem, what causes the problem will not strengthen it. हमको दिखाना है it's a problem. A shows, A supports, yeah, that's a problem. Problem हुई कैसे will not strengthen it, right? So D is out. A is correct. Which of the following can be a plausible solution for better mental well-being among the youth? So the solution will have to come from the passage itself. Problem बताया, उसी से solution आना है. Limiting the correlation between physical and mental health. That makes no sense. Limiting the research on excessive use of smartphones. Why will anybody do that? B is out. Limiting the widespread consumption of ultra-processed food. 2 problems, right? One was related to smartphone, excessive use of smartphone. 2, consumption of ultra-processed foods, right? So C looks good. Limiting the informed use of smartphones across informed use. That's what we would want to encourage, right? So D is out. Option C is correct. $95. Which of the following statements by the author lack credible evidence in the passage? Yeah, this was the question I was referring to. कि एक पॉइंट था जो थोड़ा फ्लीटिंग वे में ऑथर ने बोला था, उस पर फोकस नहीं किया था, राइट? And it was somewhere here, right? Now we see it. So it says preponderance of English in schools, right? तो ऑथर ने इस पे ज्यादा एम्फेसाइज नहीं किया. इट वॉज जस्ट मेंशन, राइट? वेरी सॉर्ट ऑफ, एज आई सेड, वेरी फ्लीटिंगली इट वॉज जस्ट मेंशन. उसके लिए उस पे ज्यादा फोकस नहीं किया. तो प्रीपॉन्डरेंस ऑफ इंग्लिश इन स्कूल्स की इंग्लिश इज रिगार्डेड एज सुपीरियर टू, लेट्स से, द लोकल रीजनल लैंग्वेजेस, राइट? दैट पॉइंट. तो ये आंसर उसी से हो रहा है, लैक क्रेडिबल एविडेंस, राइट? जिसके लिए एविडेंस नहीं दिया है. एक्सेसिव मोबाइल यूसेज के लिए दिया है, इज आउट. Providing mobiles to adolescents resulting in mental stress, that is given. Students learning the English language have weakened family relationships, इसके लिए evidence ज़्यादा नहीं दिया है, right? C looks good. Inadequate sleep and junk food वो भी दिया हुआ है. Option C is correct. Are we on? This is the same passage. Which of the following statements by the author lack credible evidence in the passage? We have already done this. We have done this. I think there's a repeat that has happened. Let's move on to the next one. This is the new passage, I think. Yeah. So India is poised for rapid economic growth. Oh, same passage, sorry. The gadgets are handed to adolescents, presumably more out of convenience than sound logic. More out of convenience than sound logic. Logic, option A says logic prevails over reasoning. Prevails over reasoning, that is out. Logic and emotions go hand in hand. तो यहाँ पे convenience हो गया कि it sort of more of a utility, right? We are sort of putting utility over logic, right? Convenience हो गया कि life आसान कर देता है या will be easy to communicate. Maybe it will be easy for the parent to communicate with the adolescent, right? So to facilitate that, smartphones are excessively used. But yes, it beats logic according to the passage, right? So C comes the closest, logic taking a back seat over utility. Option C looks good. D, logic and benefits can never be understood together. ये भी बेकार है, right? It makes no sense. C is correct here. Option C. Right, this is the passage on homelessness. And in this passage, we had this problematic, as in a problematic question on the figures, right? We'll come to that later. But yes, this one is on homelessness, and it was given that homelessness was originally believed to be a cultural problem, right? Specific to some cultures, but is now revealing itself as a global problem. It is a problem suffered by all of humanity and must be faced and solved as such, treated as a global problem, not specific to a certain culture or some cultures. Although this problem exists everywhere, it is more severe in certain parts of the world. Due to differing circumstances of homelessness around the world, there can be, and this again becomes the author's point, there can be no one solution or one set of guidelines for everyone to follow. So the solutions will have to be customized to that, for that certain region, for that culture, for that country. Okay? And then it gives us the scenario in United States, and it picks up a country which is regarded to be the most developed country, the wealthiest country, and tells us how the situation of homelessness also sort of is a problem in that country, right? And gives us certain figures and tells us that how some external events like COVID-19, pandemic, and economic fallout, how they aggravate this problem further, right? The problem of homelessness further. And so from COVID-19, there were two things given. Number one was the general economic fallout, right? And we were not able to provide resources to the homeless people, United States, right? And the second one was because there was social distancing in place. So for example, there is a place, right? There is a place where all homeless people are accommodated, right? Now in that same space, less number of people will be accommodated because we'll have to follow those social distancing rules, right? So that is another problem, right? Those have been discussed. But primarily we understand the passage is on that homelessness is a global problem, right? For the above paragraph, which of the following statements is true? A, when people in industrialized civilizations think of homelessness, they generally imagine third world countries where poverty is rampant. We don't know that actually, and especially when it is said with so much certainty. When people in industrialized civilizations think of homelessness, they imagine third world countries. We don't know that for sure, and especially it can't be said generally of all people. कि जब भी वो सोच रहे हैं regarding homelessness, the picture is third world country. Maybe that's the case for many of them, or let's say for the most of them. But is that the case every time? We don't know for sure from the passage. So A is out. B says generally the impoverished are thought to exist in third world countries only, right? And again, it's more to do with homeless people. And even if we sort of, assume that homeless and impoverished go hand in hand, but then this word only makes it more exaggerated than what the passage is implying, right? The impoverished are thought of to exist in third world countries only, but they are present. So maybe we agree with this part. They are present even in the largest cities of the world, but then we don't know generally this is the perception, right? Maybe the perception is that generally we think that the problem of homelessness is more widespread in certain countries, in third world countries, than it is in the developed countries. Maybe we are, that's the general belief. But that it only exists in third world countries is extreme, as I said, right? So B is out. Homelessness increases due to major turbulence on the economic and cultural aspects, and this is given to us, right? So option C here is correct. Economic fallout हुआ, COVID-19 and the cultural aspects have been discussed. Author ने बोला था कि cultural it's not only cultural aspects, but of course cultural aspects are there, right? So option C is correct. We're going with C. There are several causes of homelessness. Which of the following is least likely a cause of homelessness? Least likely, right? Violence in the home could lead to homelessness. Loss of job? Yes. Reason? Substance abuse given. Proper health care. How can that be a cause for homelessness? D is correct. Pretty straightforward. Homelessness in case of mental illness can be amplified because of the following reason. This one was a little sort of vague. It said can be amplified. Amplified का यहाँ पे मतलब ले लेते हैं aggravated, कि homelessness, that problem, that crisis aggravates, right? In case of mental illness. How and why, right? We're looking at plausible reasons. A says the stress of being homeless may exacerbate previous mental illness and encourage anxiety, fear, depression, sleeplessness, and substance use. Okay, so the stress of, तो पहले बोला कि mental illness, right? It sort of becomes a reason for homelessness. Mental illness or lack of mental health services. यहाँ पे दिया हुआ था. Yes, this was exactly the line. Lack of mental health services causes homelessness, and it in turn, so homelessness in turn aggravates the problem of mental illness and encourages anxiety. So it feeds in back to homelessness. So it becomes sort of a vicious cycle. Ki lack of mental services, good mental health services, homeless exacerbates the problem of mental illness, and since there is a lack of proper facilities, and it aggravates the problem of homelessness in turn, right? So it forms that vicious sort of loop. Okay, so A looks good. Now, before we discuss B and C came close, but as I said, they were vague to an extent, right? So in this particular question, we are, we don't have one particular view that one option is correct. So we are giving two options here, and it becomes a toss of coin, because I don't think there is much logic to be applied, because as I said, the statements in B and C are vague to a point. But let's look at B. People with mental illness remain homeless for longer periods of time and have less contact with family and friends. This also looks like feeding back into the loop. Ki mental illness, homeless for longer durations, maybe that exacerbates the problem of mental illness, and they continue to remain homeless, right? So it aggravates the problem. So B looks good, but as I said, people with mental illness remain homeless for longer periods of time. It may not also feed the loop, right? But then, as I said, थोड़ा vague है, consider कर लेते हैं. C, poor mental health predisposes individuals to homelessness, and homelessness exposes individuals further to particularly severe health problems. So this also points to that loop, कि they are already more exposed to this problem of homelessness, and homelessness again aggravates, the health issues. And health issues, there is lack of mental health services, and feeds back into the loop of and aggravates that crisis of homelessness, right? So, A looks very good, C looks good, B not that great, but then we have all of the above. So I'm more inclined towards D here. But if one were to say कि B बहुत खराब है, just gun at your head and choose between A and C, then I'll pick A over C. So for me, it is between D and A, but I'm more inclined to believe that D is the correct option. Okay? Homelessness in reference to the above paragraph can be observed most closely in the form of, right? So again we are going back to the passage. यहाँ पे दिया हुआ था, the causes vary depending on the place and person. Common reasons include a lack of affordable housing. They are not able to purchase or buy those houses. Poverty, lack of mental health services, right? And two options that come close here are poor prospects for employment, right? How does it, maybe it wants to ask you, how does it manifest itself, right? So the two options that can really go out without much ado are A and B, but it does come close between C and D, because D also, although they have misspelled medical here, but we can we ignore that, right? We say inadequate medical services. So lack of mental health services and inadequate medical services look very close, right? And of course, poor prospects for employment, we can imagine, affordable housing becomes a problem, poverty, results. So again, we are not giving you one sort of definite answer here. It is between C and D. And in this case, I'll say, I'm split. And again, as we had discussed in the overview, there are some of these vague questions to be tackled. Always, in all years, we have faced these questions. So in this particular question, C or D, both could be correct. Okay? And this was the other sort of, I would say, incorrect question. तो यहाँ पर हमें दिया हुआ था, जो हमने discuss किया, 580,000, right? So we understand this is an international place value system, कि जहाँ पर 100,000 है, फिर million है, फिर 100 million है, फिर billion है. Indian place value system में lakhs है, फिर crores है, फिर 100 crores है, right? So we understand the two systems. यहाँ पे लिखा है कि currently experiencing homelessness on any given day, we need something close to this, and we have no option. So what I think is they got confused, and in making that transition from I don't know, maybe they do not, whoever has said this passage do not fully understand the international place value system, and it's hard to imagine that, but that's what the error here is. They wanted to say more than 5.50 or let's say 550,000, right? 550,000 is what they wanted to say, but they have given 5.5 million, and the closest to 580,000 would be a million, but that will again be almost the double. So this is an incorrect one. So I think I won't give an answer to this one, and I hope that they take back this question, they give a mark to everyone, or they withdraw the question, right? So this is incorrect. Which of the following is not a myth? One second. Which of the following is not a myth about people experiencing homelessness? Not a myth. Something that is correct. People who are homeless choose to be so by themselves. We don't know that. Nothing of this sort. So basically how I'm answering this question is something that gets inferred from the passage. That is given or given as a fact in the passage, right? A is out. People experiencing homelessness are lazy. Lazy, nothing of that sort is given. All people who experience homelessness are addicts. Out. People experiencing homelessness find it difficult to obtain a job. So it may look like that ये ऐसा कुछ बोल रहा है, those who are homeless find it difficult to obtain a job, but what I think they meant to say was कि people who find it difficult to find a job are, tend to become homeless, right? तो हो सकता है इसके phrasing में थोड़ा problem है, but it's still the best option out there. We're going with option D. All right. So done with this. I think this was the last question on this passage. And then we have this AR set, which was a problem, and we have drawn it here, the correct sort of how it should be, right? So we have used the information and we have been able to draw this. I think this is pretty sort of basic. जिसने एनालिटिकल रीजनिंग नहीं भी किया था क्लैट के लिए कि वो तो A-लेट में आता है, क्लैट में नहीं आता, बट उनके लिए भी दिस वाज रीचिंग दिस वुडंट हैव बीन दैट डिफिकल्ट, राइट? तो सारी इंफॉर्मेशन दी हुई है. व्हाट इज राकेश's पोजीशन विद रिस्पेक्ट टू रोहन? तो रोहन हमारे पास ये है और राकेश ये है, राइट? नाउ दे आर फेसिंग द सेंटर, राइट? तो रोहन के राइट से जाएंगे तो 1 2 3 4 5 6. डू वी हैव दैट? नो. रोहन के लेफ्ट से जाएंगे तो 1 2 3, राइट? लेफ्ट से 3 है, राइट से 6 है. कुछ भी नहीं दिया वहां पे. सो इनकरेक्ट. वी आर नॉट गिविंग एन आंसर टू दिस वन. एक ये दिया है 8 टू द राइट ऑफ राम. हमें राकेश का तो राइट में तो नहीं है, राइट में तो इमीडिएटली बाद में है. लेफ्ट से देखते हैं. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. ये वाला सही हो सकता था अगर यहां पे राइट की जगह लेफ्ट ऑफ राम दिया होता, बट दे हैव मेस्ड अप. वी आर नॉट गिविंग एन आंसर. अगेन वी होप दिस क्वेश्चन इज विथड्रॉन. ओके. Who is third to the right of Mohan? Okay, Mohan is here, third to the right of Mohan. 1 2 3. We have Rohit here. 1 2 3. Rohit is not in the list. Not in the list, but we have none of these. We're going with D here. 105. Who is to the right of Rohan? ये 105 ही किया था हमने. मोहन था वो, राइट? रोहन आ गया. Who's fifth to the right of Rohan? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have Ram. Do we have Ram in the list? We don't have. Incorrect. So 105 incorrect. Out. इसमें हमने कोई ऑप्शन मार्क नहीं किया. ठीक है? तो maybe I do this. Okay. 106. Who is second to the left of Rakesh? I think we can continue with this wrong sign here क्योंकि यहाँ पे भी गलत है. ठीक है? तो who is second to the left of Rakesh? राकेश के लेफ्ट में सेकंड. One second. Let's just. We have Rakesh, right? Right. We are going like this. Left. So left we have Sohan. Do we have Sohan in the list? We don't have Sohan in the list. So out. तो देखो यहाँ पे एक दिया हुआ है डेटा इनएडिक्वेट. डेटा इनएडिक्वेट नहीं है. डेटा है हमारे पास आंसर निकालने के लिए, हमने आंसर निकाला भी है, राइट? तो डेटा इनएडिक्वेट नहीं है. इट्स जस्ट दैट कि करेक्ट ऑप्शन नहीं है हमारे पास. सो आउट. 106 इज इनकरेक्ट, राइट? सोहन इज द करेक्ट ऑप्शन. इट्स नॉट देयर इन द लिस्ट. हु इज द इमीडिएट राइट ऑफ मोहित? आर वी गोइंग विद अनदर इनकरेक्ट वन? लेट्स सी. Immediate right of Mohit. Where is Mohit? Right? Immediate right of Mohit. यहाँ पे सही है हमारा. Right? Immediate right, Sohan. Oh yes, we have Sohan in the list. A is correct. Right? Yes, 107 is A. 108. Who's third to the right of Sohan? I think we have another incorrect one here. Sohan is here, third to the right. 1, 2, 3. Suresh. Do we have Suresh in the list? We don't have Suresh in the list. Another incorrect question. So we have been able to identify at least 5 incorrect questions in this paper. और एक दो में थोड़ा वो वेग आंसर्स थे. इसीलिए हमने जो कट ऑफ दिया है लॉजिकल रीजनिंग का, we haven't sort of given it, क्योंकि बाकी क्वेश्चंस बहुत आसान है, लेकिन हाउ विल दे हैंडल दीज इनकरेक्ट क्वेश्चंस वी डोंट नो. ठीक है? तो हमारा शायद 17 से 18 गुड स्कोर था, कंसिडरिंग टेकिंग इनटू अकाउंट दीज इनकरेक्ट क्वेश्चंस, राइट? Okay, so I think that's it for the logical reasoning section, right?